Hey, 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 this is Sarah Noel Block, and you are listening to Tiny Marketing. This is the Uncut Summer Series where you are getting the raw, unfiltered, unedited recordings from our interviews, webinars, and workshops. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ridiculousness. If you've been following me for a while, you know my obsession with building out optimized processes. Well, that obsession got to like a high point. I was at the top of the mountain of obsessing after I worked with Savannah on my website redesign. If you haven't been there, you could check out her work at sarahnoelblock.com. Anyway, she had such a beautiful process that I tried to reverse engineer it. And I asked her, hey, can you come on my show and explain how you guys rocked my world so hard? It's hard to rock my world so hard when I'm already obsessed with processes and building beautiful experiences. And they gave that to me in just like the perfect way. So today she's coming on and I am resharing this episode where she explains their time blocking procedure that helps them create entire websites in just a couple of hours. So stay tuned while we talk to Savannah. I was just like trying to reverse engineer how you guys do what you do. Can you tell me how you guys came up with, or first describe the experience that clients go through, and then we can dig into the back end of it.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, like I said, we're a Squarespace web design agency. So we build Squarespace websites for our clients, and we do it in as little as a day. So it's kind of the big process piece. So we're just very big on process and systems, like I said. And we're trying to create the world's best web design experience is kind of our thing that we're just constantly pursuing. So in terms of the experience and what a client goes through, and feel free to chime in since you went through it.
I will.
But first we'll meet with somebody to just make sure they're a good fit. We're really big on making sure that, somebody is going to align with our process. It's not for everybody because it is pretty fast paced and you do have to be, a quick decision maker and all of that. We also want to make sure Squarespace is a good fit. But essentially, once they've onboarded into our process, we give them a project map, which basically lays out all the steps in the process. So it's really clear. They know exactly what to expect and what's happening when, with calendar invites and things on the calendar. And really the bulk of the process for the client, once they've done their homework, we have a pretty organized intake prep guide. But then essentially we'll have a 1-hour meeting to review the prep guide. So that's kind of like, hey, this is when your homework's due. Like you're going to meet with your designer over video chat. And so it just creates like clarity around a due date. And I think for everybody, just all humans, we need that.
Yeah.
So that review session is when we review the prep guide. So basically just look at all their homework, get on the same page, make sure we have everything we need to complete the process. And then about a week later, we do what we call the design day. Sometimes there's a couple design days if it's a bigger site, but I think for your site, we just did one design day. Is that right, Sarah?
Yeah, we did the whole thing in one day.
Boom. One day. So yeah, that's our most common package. And so what that looks like is we actually are building the site throughout the day. We do some prep work ahead of time. So it's not entirely that day, but we're basically meeting over video chat, screen sharing, asking for feedback, and then we're jumping off for a couple hours, building the next page, getting feedback. And so it's very collaborative and fast paced. And so I mentioned it's not for everybody because if people need like a lot of time to think over their decisions or the shade of blue that we're using or the icons, it's probably not a good fit because we're all about efficiency. We're like, all right, let's show up, get this done. And then by the end of the day, yeah, you have a completed website. We'll launch it, when they're ready. And so, yeah, it's very time blocked. It's very efficient and it's very collaborative. We hate the idea of like emailing back and forwards for weeks and weeks and like getting feedback that way. So we're like, let's get on video chat. Let's talk. Let's get this done in terms of, making decisions and all that. So that's high level. Anything that you would add just having gone through it or anything I missed?
Yes. Oh, well, I noticed. So we had our fit call to see if I made sense to work with your agency and how you guys work. And then at the kickoff call, that's when you went over like what homework I would need. And we kind of picked out what package I would need if we could actually get it done in a day.
Right.
And what is the tool that you used for collecting the content that you needed?
Yeah, we have Content Snare, and we've kind of built out like a custom thing in Content Snare, which is an amazing tool it works for lots of different industries. So yeah, contentsnare.com.
That's right. I told so many people about it after we worked together. I was like, Content Snare, it's amazing.
Yeah, pretty powerful. Yeah.
The other thing that I noticed is like the vast majority of the website was done before our design day. And what we did in like the first call of the day was just go through the details, like where I wanted specific changes. But the vast majority was done. Like, I don't know. The house was built. It was just like picking paint colors and stuff like that.
So, yeah, you gave us a lot to work with. I would say that is contingent on how much like branding elements we have to work with. Sometimes if somebody doesn't have anything, then we're like making more of those decisions in the day. But you had an amazing brand to work with and you're very organized. So yes, you were basically able to just, respond to, we could get a lot of work done on the front end and then you could kind of react to what we were showing you. So yes.
Yeah, it was really, really easy process. What did I want to say about that? Oh, the nice thing though is that like with a lot of times when you hear VIP day, people think that they have to be synchronous and that they're on all day long. But I was able to work all day. I think we connected twice throughout the day.
Yeah. Yes, people have asked, like, do I have to be? Because the calendar invite is like a full time block. Because we do want people to be available in case I need to meet more times. But usually that happens where people are like, yeah, I blocked off the whole day. I thought maybe I would have to be on video chat longer, but like I got a ton of other stuff done.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's nice too
awesome.
because you're not scheduling other meetings. So you can actually get work done in between working on your website.
So it's our secret way of serving you.
Yeah, that was helpful. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm busy that day, cannot meet. I want to go backwards in time though. So let's talk from that. So we had the fit call. You were like, okay, I think she can be fast paced and work with us. And then you guys gave me Content Snare where I provided the copywriting and the examples of the websites I liked and things like that. But the thing that was really cool is that you had mapped out the project. So I knew exactly what it would look like. So explain that to me. They're not all custom, I'm sure. So you probably have pre-designed workflows that you're working with. How did that work?
Yeah, so it makes it nice because we're web designers. So that's actually a Squarespace website that we built. So we have all the tools and whatnot to essentially create that page. But yeah, it's basically a page where it has like the 5 steps in the process. And then each section just describes the different steps. It's actually really nice because our process doesn't change. And so we really are able to use one template to just duplicate for all of our different projects. The only thing that changes is the number of design days. And so for the design day spot in the process, maybe someone would have 3 different design days and we just write those out in the calendar. So yeah, that's basically something we built in Squarespace. We made it branded to our own brand and colors and whatnot. And basically our project manager, every time we have a project onboarded, which is pretty frequently because our turnaround time is pretty quick, needed it to be like really easy. She just duplicates a page in Squarespace. plugs in dates and name and customizes it a little bit. Pretty minimal. So I would say like, I don't know, she would know better, but maybe like 10 minutes of work each time where she's just having to update links and text and whatnot.
That's cool. I'm going to totally steal that idea.
Yeah, you have a Squarespace site.
I do. I kind of take that with when I'm podcast guesting, and I'll have a landing page that I just duplicate and change out the certain information I need for that specific podcast so I can track conversion rates from those experiences. But I'm guessing it's similar. Does it live on your website, or do you have a separate domain? I can't remember what the domain was for that anymore.
It's map.knapsackcreative.com. So it's a separate Squarespace site. The reason we did that, if you're only going to have like a dozen of them or so a year that need to be active, it could live on your existing site. However, we have like hundreds over the last few years.
Yeah.
And we like to print them just in case like a client wants to reference their training video link from the past project or whatever. And so because we have so many, we just decided to create a separate site. So yeah, it is a separate
Keep it clean
site with, yeah. We already have way too many pages in our existing site. So
yeah, that would be insane. Hundreds of pages on your website. Bah.
Yeah.
Do you keep them private then? So they're not searchable?
Yeah, they're not searchable. Like even the subdomain, if you go there, like there's not even, it's none of it can be found or anything like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's private, personalized for the company that you're working with. Now, you mentioned time blocking. So how does that work when you are front loading and doing parts of the website ahead of time?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can first just share like how we time block the projects because that might be useful. And then kind of get into like how we actually break up the pieces of work. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, we've basically figured out a way to scope out the work so we can kind of predict, okay, this package needs this amount of time. And we have a scoping tool and a very predictable set of processes, so we have a checklist that we go through every single time and that process doesn't change. Of course, there's variables and challenges and things that you need to time manage. But the nice thing, so our calendar is pretty rigid where Tuesdays and Thursdays are our project days. And so no matter what, those are when design days get booked. I don't think we've ever had in like 11, 12 years a Monday or a Wednesday project, which is just so funny. And then Mondays and Wednesdays are our meeting days. And then Fridays are strictly internal days. So we actually don't do any client work. So you can look at the month of March and say, okay, all these Tuesdays and Thursdays are available slots for these different designers. We know when people are off and all of that. And then essentially it's really easy to schedule and book and whatnot because our day package is one design day. So our project manager knows, okay, March 5th is going to be for this person. And so anyways, there's just a lot of predictability when you get into time blocking because it is pretty rigid and systematic, if you will. But then in terms of how we break it up, it really is our process and our checklist. I mean, it would be overwhelming to show anyone the checklist because there's just a lot of different steps, but it's all broken up in the process. So the designer knows, okay, what do I need to do before my review session? And so there's some prep work for the site. And even that is time blocked. So you have 2 hours before your review session. So there's literally a 3-hour block. So the designer preps for 2 hours and then they meet with the client for 1 hour. And then the prep time is time blocked. So that's about 4 hours. Sometimes we only need 1 or 2 hours, but there's at least 4 hours on the day before the design day, which is a Monday or Wednesday. And then there's, the 7-8 hour block during the design day. So literally everything has a timestamp. And again, I think because of our scoping tool, there are times where we underquote and I always feel really bad about it or
like on which package they would choose.
Just like, ooh, this one probably could have used more time. So yeah, on which package. But the designer has like buffer time. So I think
Oh,
that's the other
yeah. So
big
you feel
it's
bad
like,
because you are the person who is deciding the time frame. I get it now.
totally. Sorry, that that was my bad. Um, but I think a big part of time blocking is creating buffer because you need margin for error. So we say Fridays are only for internal time. However, they're also a really nice buffer day if for some reason like a designer needs a couple extra hours. So that's kind of how it all happens on the calendar. Really, everything is just pre-scheduled, and our designers are very trained in our process, and so super predictable for them. Like they can look weeks ahead in advance and know, all right, these 2 hours I'm prepping for my review session. This day I'm doing a design day. This day I'm prepping. So there's basically just time blocks throughout the process. And so we're able to get that work done, the day before the design day and kind of come, like you said, with some more stuff to show. And so it makes the design day less stressful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to reiterate for listeners.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
4 hours before the design day, they have time to like prepare the skeleton site, we'll say, and or a first draft site. And then they have the review day, and they have a 2-hour time block before the call starts. And that's for just going through their checklist. They have the items that they need to go through. And then they have the review call. And then they have 8 to 9 hours during the day to do any of the revisions or design work that they have to do based off of the review call. And then you have a wrap-up call, right? At the end of the day?
There's or yes, during the design day.
Yeah.
That would be within like the 8 or so hour day. Yeah, there would be a wrap-up call.
Yeah. So the wrap-up call, I'm remembering back to my experience, happened it was like in the afternoon after we had squared everything away. And you're like, any changes? I'm like, no. And then we would hit publish. So that's how that would happen. So if that wrap-up call in the afternoon, they're like, I have major changes actually, what would you do then?
That's a great question. I get asked that pretty frequently. So we ideally have some different what do you call them? Fail stops before that. Like, in other words, conversations that we're already having where we feel like we're really on the same page, and we're constantly checking in. We're really big on clear communication. Like, hey, how are you feeling about things? Is this heading in the right direction? I can't think of a time, probably been like one time that I can think of where it just, this didn't happen, but it's very rare that we're not on the same page and heading in the right direction in terms of the overall style. And because we're having those little meetings throughout and showing progress, we're not going to get so far ahead with a design or a style that the client's like, whoa, this was not what I was expecting at all. If for some reason a client is like, I'm just having second thoughts, like instead of this illustrated style, I actually want to use all photos. They usually know that that's kind of like on them and that it was like something that, okay, we are going to need to book more time. So really the short answer is that we would just book more time. But the caveat is that it's pretty rare that we get to the end of the day and they're like, this isn't what I wanted, because we've been collaborating for hours and hours. So
yeah. I always call those micro yeses in projects, making sure you're getting a micro yes at little intervals within the project so you're in the right direction.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Micro yeses. I love that. I'll steal that.
Good, because I'm stealing this process.
I love that we talked about how the process has translated to a lot of the work that you do. It's just really cool when I hear that, because we have a copywriter friend that has kind of extrapolated a lot of our process into, she does like copywriting in a day. And so I think it's just really cool because it's not only like a win for clients, but it's also a win. Like, I think you've experienced positive
aspects
how you work and whatnot and time blocking, and even like predictable revenue is kind of nice. Like, okay, I know on these days I'm, knocking out these projects. So it's just cool. But there's been some stealing.
Yeah, anytime it's rare that I really, really love an experience that I've had. And anytime it happens, I'm like, what pieces of that can I pull into my process?
It's smart. Yeah, we do the same thing.
Okay, so what was I going to ask you? Specifically, I wanted to ask you, this isn't the question that I had in mind right now, but I'm going to go with it anyway. What tools do
Yeah.
you use throughout it? Like project management? I know you use Content Snare for gathering the information ahead of time.
Yeah. So Asana is a big project management tool. So our project manager lives in Asana in terms of moving the client through our process. So like send the invoice, like add the calendar dates, all those different pieces that she kind of has to do from a high level. So Asana is a big one. And then all of our file storage is in Dropbox. And so Dropbox Paper, which is kind of like the Google Doc version of has become where all of our other like checklists and whatnot live. And so we basically have a paper doc. So picture like, an online blank document for every single client. So we have one called Tiny Marketing. And each time we're pasting in that same checklist. So we have a discovery meeting checklist. We have a content review session checklist. We have a design day checklist. We have a site launch checklist, and it just goes on and on. So we paste that in every time, or I think it's actually a template that our project manager just creates each time. And so basically a designer knows, okay, they look at their calendar, they have Tiny Marketing on their calendar, and they just go to that paper doc and they can have it up and just basically start knocking things out. So yeah, I would say Asana and Dropbox Paper are the big ones. We really like Dropbox Paper for our design process because it gives us a lot more flexibility to like take notes and move things around and make it our own. I don't know how familiar you are with Asana, but we tried to move everything into Asana when we moved over to it, but it's not as like fluid and flexible. Like it's really great at having organized checkboxes, but in Dropbox Paper, we can literally like have a bunch of notes under one specific check mark and have notes from the client and feedback that we need to like ref next day. So yeah, I would say those are our two big ones. We use Slack for all of our internal communication, but I feel like that's a given. Slack is pretty popular among teams these days.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 years ago, I moved to Teamwork for project management, and it does allow you to put in notes and everything within those little tasks.
Okay, good to know. Teamwork?
Teamwork. It's nice for agencies too, because like all of the billing can be in there too, so you understand how profitable the project is.
Yeah, good to know. I'll check that out. Teamwork.
Oh, and it has a Slack it has its own version of Slack in there.
Okay, cool. So everything could be in one place. Yeah, we have thought about moving to something that, like we've looked at Notion and we've looked at a couple other software that could consolidate things a bit more. So I think that could be a future, maybe.
Put it on the list.
Q3 or
yeah, check it out. I've heard good things about Notion. Is more of like a wiki for SOPs. I mean, that sounds like something that could be beneficial for you too, since you guys are like killing it with your processes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, we're always like wide open to process improvements and whatnot. I think we're frequently always looking at like, okay, who came out with a better software than what we're using and all that.
Oh my gosh.
Good to.
Yeah. I'm always talking about how I'm like the chronic beta tester. If something's out, I will try it. I will dig in it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good.
I have a lot of logins. I probably have thousands of logins out there.
I know. Yeah. 1Password is like our lifesaver because, we have a gazillion logins all in one place.
Oh my gosh. I know. Me too. I would be screwed without a password manager. Okay. Is there anything that we missed? And if not, can you tell people how they can work with Knapsack?
Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything that we missed? Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. In terms of how people can work with Knapsack, you can go to our website, knapsackcreative.com. Out our website, there is a schedule a meeting with a designer button across the site, and you can actually fill out that form. And we would set up a discovery meeting. And so that would be a good way that people can reach us. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, not super active currently, sorry, but we are there.
Oh, and you guys have a podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So Ben Manley is our founder. He has a podcast called The Friday Habit. And so it's really great for talking about systems and processes and basically making your business more efficient and whatnot. So yeah, you can check out that podcast, The Friday Habit, and hear from Ben.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Savannah and getting a behind the scenes look at how they create an amazing client experience. And I'm saying that with firsthand experience since they were my web design company. And no, they didn't pay me or give me a free discount to say that. I paid full price and I still loved them. So check out Knapsack if you are a Squarespace website or if you're thinking about moving to Squarespace. Their experience is amazing. They do beautiful work. I adore them. And if you enjoyed this episode, remember to like, rate, review, subscribe, and hit share. I'm going to give you a second right now. Do it. Hit that share button, share it with a friend, and let them know, hey, this is how you create an amazing client experience. So I'm going to reiterate some of my favorite points from that. So what they do is they have really clear SOPs, standard operating procedures, and they have it all documented. They have templates for their project management that are all ready to go. They have a website dedicated to just client onboarding where they have the roadmap that clients will experience on there, and they just duplicate it, change the URL so it's just for you, and you have a clear overview of what you need. They use Content Snare to gather all of the information that they need to be able to do the project as efficiently as possible. And last, they live and die by time blocks. And they had a really beautiful system for that, which I'm totally going to steal as soon as I'm done recording this episode. Going to go into my calendar, start time blocking it. So, beautiful creatures, thank you again for joining me. I love you. I love you. I love you. I appreciate you. And the fact that you spend time listening to me jabber on about marketing every week means the world to me. Goodbye. If you enjoyed this episode, please, please, please remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and rate and review. But most importantly, tell your friends. Share this episode with a friend so other people know about Tiny Marketing and our Uncut Summer series. I will see you next week with another great one.